To give you insight on issues that matter most to you. Call now, 571-2428. That's 571-2428 on 970 WGTK.
Hello and welcome. Talking about teenage violence, and both of our guests tonight, by the way, joining our Sunday night family, are experienced therapists. They were both in private practice as well as being in a university setting for Professor Karam, and Ms. Richardson is in private practice as well, and works at Boys and Girls Haven in Transformations, which is an interesting program. So we were talking about the fact that there are some resources out there.
Yeah, there are actually a lot of resources. The main one that I want to plug is there's actually a helpline, a toll-free helpline, National Teen Dating Abuse Helpline. The number is 1-866-331-9474, and we'll say that again before the end of the show. But they actually that would, I also want to say that would be for abusers as well. If you're listening, or if you know someone that may be an abuser and wants to get help, wants to make some positive changes, they can certainly call and get some help as well. But one of the things that that the helpline does is they have peer advocates that will talk to folks that call in, which I think is really important, because there again, that social aspect of adolescence is really crucial for them. Okay.
And Professor Karam, you were talking about a program at the Kent School of Social Work at U of L.
Right. Dr. Becky Antle is a primary investigator, and I'm a co-investigator. You can go to LouisvilleRelationships.org, and what we do is run psychoeducational groups for adults and for youth all around healthy relationships and communication skills. Now, built into these curriculums are parts around teen dating violence and around how to be safe in a relationship. So we find that these programs that are aimed at prevention and crouched in the umbrella of healthy relationships versus domestic violence or dating violence, they attract more people, and they give you insight, not only knowing what's going on, but also skills. And that's what you really need to know how to do. Communicate, be in healthy relationships, and learn how to get out of the ones if they're not.
Yeah. Now, there are also cultural differences. Aren't that this type of violence, be it adult or teenage, is somewhat more acceptable in some cultures and less acceptable in others?
I would say that, I think there again, going back to gender roles, I think it would be the same thing. If you're raised in a culture where men are the dominant partner, or women are the more submissive, that will certainly tend to
play a role.
Sure.
And I think the nice thing about running these groups is sometimes you're in a relationship that you didn't, because your partner is not hitting you or beating on you, you don't think that's violence. But we learn about all these different types of emotional abuse, some of which we've talked about earlier this evening. And when you're in a group format and you're not in the bubble of your own relationship, you find out, this is not good. I should not be tolerating this. Other people have gotten out of this. Maybe I can too. And the interesting finding from our work is that people use these type of classes and get support from their peers to get out of the relationship if it's a bad one, or learn how to fix it if it's this situational violence that could be improved by communication skills and learning how to talk to your partner.
Dr. Frager, I wanted to go back to, we were talking about resources and also about Kentucky's report card and us receiving an F. Well, one of the other things that got us that grade is that there's not really a school response plan in any of our schools regarding partner violence. And that's a big problem, because that's where a lot of it happens and that's where a lot of it is seen. There's a curriculum. It's called Safe Dates, I believe. That is a really good resource that I would encourage, if there's any teachers listening, I would really encourage them to check out that curriculum. And also the University of Kentucky, I think they've got, they're just starting some research that is going to implement kind of we were talking about the importance of peers being involved. Dr. Karam was just talking about kind of being in that group setting. The University of Kentucky's Violence Intervention and Prevention Center is just starting to do a study on that they're going into 26 Kentucky high schools. It's a bystander education intervention, and it's based on academic research that they've done. And basically what it's going to do is really encourage the kids to kind of step in and be advocates, make it easier for them to talk to their peers about dating and sexual violence, and to intervene when they see something happening, to not respond when someone tells a joke about violence, and basically just to have less tolerance for things like that.
Well, one of the questions come up is, whose responsibility is it to teach their children about sexuality, about boundaries, and so forth? Now, there's some parents who think, well, that's my job as a parent. I don't want the schools intervening in my role. And then there's some of us who feel it is a school responsibility to take care of this as well. Certainly that's seems to be a more acceptable setting, would be in a school setting. And I would pose that for those listening tonight, just whose responsibility is this? And I think you could make a case both ways, by the way. 571-2428, 571-CHAT, put you right here. And again, our lines are open. We do welcome your calls. What do you think, Professor Karam? Whose job is this? And I started to mention about Boy Scouts, by the way, having been a Scoutmaster 24 years. There's some terrible abuse that have happened 20 or 30 years ago in Chicago, which the Scouts learned that where would a pedophile go? They go to where kids are, and just like you're at Boys Haven, Jennifer. And so the Scouting has an amazing program to protect youth, and every leader has to go through it. A Boy Scout, when he first joins, has to, and these are 11 to 18-year-old young men, has to talk about this with their parent, and the parent has to sign off in their book along with them that they've read and will adhere to this. And it's in reaction. Scouting just took a hit, I think, for multi-millions of dollars awarded to some kid who was abused repeatedly by the Scoutmaster. And as a result, and this goes back probably 15 years now, they've had one of the most stringent child protection programs for leaders. Every leader in Scouting for the last 15 years gets a criminal check. And obviously, if they have any history of pedophilia or anything, abusive relationships, they're not welcome in the Boy Scouts of America. And so Scouting became, from the worst, or at least laissez-faire kind of approach of not paying attention to it, to one of the most aggressive. And now you've got, I'm watching the Catholic Church struggle with this same issue. And Scouting figured this out 20 years ago, but it's a shame the church hasn't figured that out. That's from where I sit. And there is a model out there, and if you want to see one of the best child protection models going, take a look in the Boy Scout Leader's Guide and the Boy Scout Manual. It's an amazing model.
Yeah, and I think going what you said, it's a kind of a system-wide response to this phenomenon of teen dating violence we're talking about tonight. But for me, my family therapist, it starts at home. And you can't believe how many parents in the last 10 years have come into my office and they've said, fix my teenage son or adolescent or daughter. And I say it doesn't work that way. You know, it's a family type of issue, and you have to become comfortable talking to your child. And we've talked tonight earlier why some parents aren't, because they haven't figured out their own relationships, or maybe they've had violence or emotional abuse, and they don't really know how to talk to their child about what they've gone through, and they kind of clam up. So they hope their child gets it from their friends or from school, but it's not enough. So it's learning how to have a dialogue with your teenager about what's going on in their life.
There's some parents who say, wait, teaching my child anything to do with sex, and they include teenage violence because it's usually over sexual issues. Although there can be emotional, there can be other than just physical abuse. And that's my job as a parent. What are you doing intervening school? And it's interesting. I don't have a single parent willing to speak up right now. 571-2428. Our lines are open. 571-2428. I even bribe on Sunday night people. Give away lots of good things. Abbey Road tickets. Give you a couple tonight just for calling in. I'm Dr. Stan Frager with Dr. Karam and Miss Richardson. We're here for you.